Welcome to our online class. No, this is the current setup that we have since there's still an ongoing earthquake, or there are still occurring earthquake rather. And I believe the school is still checking a couple of things with our system or with our setup. We supposedly earlier today we should have an online class. However, due to the recent events, especially uh early morning or at around 1 a.m. I'm not quite sure if it was around 1 a.m. We experience a sudden shaking again, no? So instead of I understand people, some of you might not really be comfortable with what's happening. So I will not compel everyone to join the online class. So to be fair with everyone, I will be uploading a recorded video lecture instead to ensure that we are on track with our coverage. Now, based on the memo posted in our GC and also in the official Facebook page of the school, it was mandated that our midterms were again moved, no, on October 20th. So we'll please we will just uh we will just check from time to time if there might be changes, but hopefully no, there would be no other movements and whatnot, so we can continue with our classes since the this particular incident has been ongoing for quite some time, no. This is also the first time that we have experienced this kind of setup. So hopefully I hope everyone's doing well. I understand that some of you might be experiencing anxiety and fear right now. However, this is the current reality that we have. This is something not new since if you could recall, the Philippines is actually part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. However, our preparedness for this kind of incidents or this kind of force majeure is something that we must all practice. Uh, yes, we are still fearing for what's really happening. We will never know because you cannot predict earthquake. But then again, let's just try to focus on the things that you can do for now. First one, you can always prepare yourself for whatever possible incidents that might occur. And second, just try to calm yourselves as well. Uh, Try to think about it that this is the new normal. Uh, for me, I since I was able to work and stay in Japan for quite some time, no, earthquake is a common thing there. And we would often notice our apartment swaying. So those are actually tectonic movements from time to time na agyod. So it's something that they have all prepared. And I hope that's one of the things that we Filipinos would also prepare for, because that's our reality. We're part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Probably the inactive plates are now or the inactive fault lines are now active. We will never know. Kay sulod man gyud tagod. If you would try to look at the map, we are actually on top of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Ang Japan lang gyud ang active fault lines nila naa gyud dito. So kana lang, we need to brace ourselves for what we consider the new normal. All right, speaking of Japan, our current topic for this particular pre-finals period is actually the Japanese occupation. Now, one of the things that I would like you to do first is to watch the documentary. I would like you to watch a documentary of Hideki Tojo. He's actually the brains behind why this entire invasion began. Uh, Technically, Japan did not really had a plan to invade the neighboring Asian countries. However, because of the idea of Hideki Tojo, this entire catastrophe began because of the single man Hideki Tojo, not Emperor Hirohito. Always remember Emperor Hirohito. Uh, he's basically considered an invincible individual. He just simply stay in his palace. However, he was persuaded by Hideki Tojo that this plan is possible, that this is actually a possible success. Okay? But anyhow, before we begin, or before we begin rather, let's go about with the topics that we will uncover. No, by the way, this particular PowerPoint, it will directly cover our midterms, and also, oh no, it will directly cover our topics for your finals, na no? Pre-finals and finals. So, naa na diri tanan. I will upload this within the day as well, but let me just go over with our lecture. Now, one of the things that you will see on this particular PowerPoint is the Constitution or the preamble. So this is what I made mention that you need to memorize, no? Memorize na ninyo ginay-hinay. This is such just a very short, uh, a short, a short line, no? Or a short paragraph rather. This is such a very short paragraph. So please memorize this ahead of time. And hopefully if things will be if things will normalize, we can all return to our respective classes and we can perform our online class. Oh no, we can have a regular face-to-face lecture. Okay? Now, these are just few pictures of the events of Pearl Harbor. Have you seen Pearl Harbor? I'm not quite sure no kay karaan naman ang guna nga salida. Pearl Harbor, I believe that there it was a film at early 2000. 2001 to be exact. It was actually uh Ben Affleck, Josh Hartnett, those were the people, or those were the artists who were the characters or the protagonists of the film Pearl Harbor. Now, Pearl Harbor is actually a dock or a kanang pantalan siya. Pearl Harbor is actually a pantalan and a military zone in located in Hawaii. Hawaii by this time was already a state or a territory. Basically, Hawaii during that period was already considered a territory of the United States. So, Pearl Harbor is actually the name of the ship. Okay, it was the name of the ship. It was not necessarily ship, but rather a U.S. naval base. So it's called Pearl Harbor. And all of a sudden, on December 7 of 1941, kamikaze fighters or the suicide fighters of the Japanese, I believe you've heard of the band Kamikaze, right? Kamikaze is actually what you consider the suicide fighters of the Japanese empire. Kamikaze in Japanese or in English translation, it means divine wind. So it's an organized attack gadungan-dungan og nag-suicide dive ang mga jet fighters directly sa naval base sa Pearl Harbor. So that was actually the incident that took place on December 7 of uh 1941, and it basically shaped how the Philippines were involved during World War II. Now, this is just a simple timeline, no? So we would understand what were the incidents therein. So 1941 nagsugod ang attack sa Pearl Harbor. So by December 9 or December 10 nagsugod na nig-abot ang mga Hapon diri sa Pilipinas. We were under Japanese occupation from 1942, 43, 44 until 1945 ha. So that's the timeline. Technically, almost mo end na ang year 1941 diha ta gisugod og invade, and then transition from this particular year. Technically, we were given we were able to to win from the Japanese, or at least nakalingkawas sa invasion and occupation around September of 1945 pa ha. So that's the timeline. If you would try to look at the events, muna siya timeline na inyong i-follow. Now, the start of the Japanese occupation, this is a simple timeline, no? The so-called peacetime of the decade of the 1920s and 30s in the Philippines was shattered when Pearl Harbor was bombed. Always remember, the Philippines was already in the transition period. Kaya nga naman, transition. Remember, 1935, that was the first election, Commonwealth election. So, ang atong president was Manuel L. Quezon, and also uh, Vice President Sergio Osmeña. So since we were actually still technically a colony or a territory of the US, we were involved with this. We were one of the collateral damage of the war, considering we were actually a territory of the US. However, if you will try to look at history, uh this even if we were not a territory of the US, the Japanese were planning to build an empire. All right, so this was actually the time, no? As I was saying, even if Pearl Harbor was not bombed in Hawaii, more or less we will still be part of the so-called expansion of the Japanese empire. So these were actually just a simple timeline of unsay nahitabuan ni. So the start of the Japanese occupation, as I made mention, technically this should not be December 8. This is December 9. No, December 7. We are looking at two different time zones here ha, but to be exact, ni occur ang Pearl Harbor bombing is December 7 of 1941. Okay? Approximately 17 hours after Pearl Harbor invasion, Japanese Lieutenant Masaharu Huma, they began to arrive in the islands of Luzon. So December 8 nag-start na sila sa ilang bombing. So 17 hours. So that would mean it was already a planned invasion. Why Clark, Pampanga? Because Clark is actually a military base of the Americans. Always remember, there were a lot of military bases of the Americans in the Philippines during this period. And one of the biggest military base was actually the Clark Field, or in the military camp or military base in Clark, Pampanga. Okay? So Clark, Pampanga, makita na ninyo dito ang Mount Pinatubo. As I made mention, the only time na wala na tayong US military base was when Mount Pinatubo erupted. So ang mga Hapon, they actually it was a surprise attack. No one actually ever thought that the Japanese would have a successive plan of attacking the naval bases or the bases of Americans in other areas. So that's the start of the Philippine invasion, no? Now, why were the Americans forces there? During the time of Japanese aggression in Asia, US had already occupied the Philippines. Always remember, kaninga tuig 1941, we were still under the transition period sa atuang 1935. Unsa to'y kasabutan sa 1935 Constitution? After 10 years, we will be given complete freedom by the Americans. So technically by 1941, ika 6 years pa ni nato sa atong transition period, and naa pa tay upat ka tuig before we are considered completely sovereign. Why? The Philippines was not fully sovereign ani kay naaman ta sa Commonwealth, meaning ang US mag-oversee gihapon sa activity sa Pilipinas despite the fact na naa natay kaugalingong constitution and we already had our own president during that time. So that's also the reason why we were part of the Japanese occupation due to the fact that we are actually a country with a lot of US military bases installed. Apart from that, we were also a colony back then. Okay? Now, the start of the Japanese occupation. World War II will not be complete if you will not be introduced with the idea of the Axis and Allied powers. Axis powers were originally Rome-Berlin connection. So Rome-Berlin, that would mean Italy and Germany. However, this particular guy on your left side, the one with where next to Benito Mussolini, you're familiar with Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, and then Hideki Tojo. He is actually the guy who orchestrated the idea of invading other Asian countries. He basically had this idea of Greater East Asia co-prosperity. Now, always remember, if you would really like to understand how this particular guy changed history, why he was considered infamous to begin with, check the documentary or watch the documentary that I've asked you to, that I uploaded in our MS Teams, and I will also be providing an instruction because we will have an activity or written activity about that. Now, nganong naapil man si Japan? Hideki Tojo, because he came from a military family, the only thing that he knew was actually to become a military man. However, mind you, he was simply the one who orchestrated everything, but he did not really participated directly in the battle. In other words, brain lang ni siya pero wa ni siya muscle. So meaning siya ray magplano og usay buhaton, but technically virgin ni siya when it comes to battlefield, meaning he is inexperienced in terms of battle. He's also the one behind the idea of the rape of Nanjing province in China. So try to check the documentary so you would understand how brutal this particular guy was. You might be wondering, nganong naapil si Japan considering East Asia ni siya, then kaning duha ka infamous people of history were actually from the Western colonies or Western powers. The reason behind that, Hideki Tojo during his youth went to Berlin. And then in Berlin, he was amazed of how Hitler handled the militaries therein. And he was also amazed with the idea that the Germans were so loyal to their own country. Because at this point in time, during the early 1920s to 1930s sa Japan, it was all Western power. Japan was actually was an ally to the United States at one point. It just so happened nga nahinay-hinay o ka-diminish ang pagkahapon ani nila because of the influence of the Western people. Always remember, the Japanese were also invaded by Dutch at one point, and then they made friends with the Americans. So during this period, there were actually a lot of Americans residing in Japan even before World War II began. So because of that, Hideki Tojo rose to power, and then he was able to convince Emperor Hirohito that this plan would work. The creation of Greater East Asia co-prosperity would work, and that's basically the start why Japan became part of the so-called Axis power. Always remember, nag-originate ra ni sa Rome-Berlin connection. Sa kaning tulo nga grupo, Hitler, Mussolini ug Hirohito, ang gikan gyud og kanang elite class ani is gikan gyud elite class ani is none other than Hideki Tojo, because if you would try to research in history about Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini, these individuals are actually part of the grassroots community, meaning part di sila sa masa. So their drive and philosophy to change or alter their country is basically the idea of power. They were actually at one point they were enslaved, to say the least. Gidaog-daog ni sila, and then they were the less privileged, less fortunate type of individual. And suddenly they rose to power. Always remember the idea ni ang katong words ni Dr. Jose Rizal no sa iyang libro, the slaves of today will be the tyrants of tomorrow. Okay? So if you would try to look at it, maoy nahitabo, because for one, they altered the history, no? For Hitler, remember, Hitler wanted pure race, or the so-called Aryan race. Para niya ang mga Jewish people were inferior. So that's one of the things that you can learn about history, no? Anyhow, so much for Hitler and Mussolini. We will just try to focus with Japanese for the meantime, no? Allied powers, these were individuals, or these were countries rather, that was formed after World War One. During World War One, if you could recall your world history, World War One only included the countries in the western area, or the western hemisphere of the globe. That would mean Europe. World War One is more of a war between empires, or a war between kingdoms, because for one, World War One began when the Prussian king Wilhelm started attacking the neighboring kingdom. Wilhelm, if you would try to check, he's actually a close relative, or pag umangkon ra pud to siya ni Queen Victoria sa UK. Technically, ang mga manag-agaw raman ang Netherlands, Russia, Greece, German o United Kingdom o Belgium including. So that would mean parinti ra ni kasagaran ang naa sa mga European monarch. So during World War One, they decided to create a convention of the nation. This is actually your predecessor to the so-called United Nation. No? Naghimo sila, and then include diri ang mga members kay Russia, na apil ang China, because China was a territory of United Kingdom. Remember the idea of John Bull, the idea wherein they need to ensure that they can civilize the uncivilized, and China was exploited by the British monarch during this period, no? So appeal siya sa allied powers. By the start of World War II, there was a policy created by US and Great Britain. This was called the Europe First policy. US and Great Britain agreed to pursue this policy, which meant the war resources of the two countries would concentrate first in defeating the Nazi Germany, while simultaneously fighting the Japanese in the Pacific. So that would mean dugay ta na liberate, because for one, kuwang ang mga resources nga gipangpadala sa Pilipinas. Kay ang ah, kay ang kay ang gi-priority nila is ma-liberate sa ang European continent before mo send og full blast nga backup sa Pacific. That's the reason why mas daghan kayong nangamatay nga mga Filipinos during the Japanese occupation. Not only Filipinos but also other Pacific Islanders and other neighboring Southeast Asian countries. I would remember a particular newspaper article. I've seen it when I was in grade school, no. Also man gyud kaayong Japanese documentaries during my grade school years. That was around early 2000, no. The point of that newspaper article was this: while the daughter is being raped, while the while the mother is helping out the cousins, the daughter is being raped at the back door. So ang punto atong article, ang cousin ni United States are actually your UK, your Great Britain, your other European countries. While ang daughter niya was directly referring to the Philippines. Why? Giuna niyag tabang ang iyang mga igagaw, usa unta niya i-back up or tabangan ang iyang anak, which is the Philippines. That's the symbolism of that particular newspaper clippings. I just forgot which newspaper is that, but it was actually a local newspaper in the Philippines. The writer depicted that the US prioritized the cousins instead of helping out the daughter. So what was the idea? technically the idea was this, why did Japan started invading? Because they wanted to expand their territories. This was the year or the time of imperialism. You want to expand your territories. Always remember, ang giunahan sa Japan ani was actually China. Mubitaw tong rape of Nanjing. And sooner they started expanding their grip to the entire Asian continent, because their idea was greater East Asia co-prosperity. Japan aimed to free Asian countries from Western colonizers by giving independence. But technically, ang gusto sa Japan aning time was to invade the other Asian countries in replacing the invader, the Western colonizers. So that would mean, instead of Western colonizers, Japan will take over the Western colonizers and become the new colonizers. But to make it romanticize, mauni ang iyang title, Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity. But technically, imperialism ra gihapon. Okay, so the guy on your left side, that's your Emperor Hirohito, ha? Emperor Hirohito, and then that's your other infamous individuals of history, no? Now, this is Hideki Tojo. He's actually a general. The funny thing about this guy, no, spoiler alert lang ko, no, although I uploaded a documentary that you can watch. But the funny thing about this guy, after the war ended, when Japan was defeated, he tried committing suicide. Now, always remember, kaning tawhana wa gini siya kagunit nakagunit ni siya pusil, pero wa gina siya idea how to really fight. He used pen more than the gun itself. So he wanted to do an honorable suicide, no? He wanted to kill himself. Uh uh he wanted to kill himself. So what did he do? Excuse for a while, ha. I'm just responding to a particular email. I'm multitasking. Sorry. Now, there's this ancient way of killing by samurais. It's actually called seppuku. Hideki Tojo wanted to do that because they have this idea, it's more honorable to die within your own hands than to be captured by your enemies. Ang iyang gibuhat, he wanted to commit suicide, then iyang gisugo iyang doctor, gipamarka niya asa dapita ang heart. Okay, so he wanted to shut himself. However, when he did that, again, as I made mention, diba, he's not really familiar with guns. He did not really participated in war, but he was actually the greatest. He was one of the individuals considered as the infamous torturer, no? Siya usa sa rason nga nung na-discover na to ng idea or tambal sa frostbite. Kakuan mo ng frostbite if you're exposed to cold temperatures, manggahi ni mong kamot, mangitom. He actually did that as a torture. So going back to the story, although you will see this in the documentary, no, when he shot himself, tungod sa iyang kabanga, he was not able to shut his heart. So, instead mamatay, na hospital pa siya, and then he undergo trial before he was actually sentenced to death in 1948. He went to trial pag yun, no? So, that's the guy, Hideki Tojo. The only thing that he knew about his life was about the life of the military. But he was the brain behind everything, not really the muscle. So muni imong idea sa greater the Empire of Japan and her allies, no, muni ang idea na to sa Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity. So technically dili lang ang tibuok Asian continent gid ilang plano. Mind you, they already invaded already took over China aning time, ha. Ilan na ning take over si China pod. So that's the idea. So this is just a timeline, no? December 8, the Japanese already landed or bombed the areas of Clark, Pampanga. By December 9, the news of the bombing hit the front page of Manila newspapers. December 10, the Japanese invaded in Vigan. They also landed in Davao and they also landed in Pangasinan. By this time, by the way, the Commonwealth government was evacuated to Corregidor. That's actually in Bataan. Try to look at the map so you would understand how far Bataan is from the capital Manila, no? Quezon was evacuated to Corregidor was inaugurated for his second term. Nganong second term man niya nakadaog pa ni si Quezon og election and because of that nagkuan pa ni siya usa na siya ga inauguration pa ni siya para ma-confirm ang iyang pagka-presidente. So he went to Corregidor and then he actually didn't stayed in the Philippines for quite some time. By 1942 he was moved to the United States and later on he was transferred to Australia, no? So December 26, 1941, Manila was declared an open city. It means in international law that the city that is not occupied or defended by military forces. Now, in war parlance or in war's language rather, when you talk about an open city, it means it is a city undefended. Walay nagbantay, walay ni bantay og walay mo protektar. So ang nabuhat ani kay bisag open city ang Manila, ang gibuhat ni Japan, gibumbahan gihapon nila. Okay? Gibumbahan nila ang Pilipinas or ang Manila despite the declaration of an open city. So if war crimes manggod ka or war times manggod ka, dapat ka mo follow sa rules of war. Na diri sa tungod sa daning World War II, by the way, diri nato nasabtan ang idea sa POWs or prisoners of war, mga rights sa mga prisoners of war. Diri na to makita ang idea and importance sa human rights. Why? This time, this particular period, wa gi respect sa human rights, no? So, Manuel L. Quezon, by the way, he did not see he died actually eventually, no? He died while the war was still ongoing. He died at 1942 pod. So, to be exact, he died in 1944 rather, not 1942. He was in the United States for quite some time. 1942 ni Hawa siya and then he died there in 1944 and that's the reason why Sergio Osmeña became our second president by virtue of succession. Wa to nakadaog og election si Sergio Osmeña but rather he succeeded Manuel L. Quezon because he was the vice president. Okay? And what else? What happened? January 9, okay? The Japanese started bombing the stronghold of the USAFE forces. USAFE forces is basically the forces of the Filipinos and the Americans. United States Armed Forces in the Far East. Probably try to check or try to ask your parents or your grandparents. Probably naamoy mga lolo or mga relatives nga gitawag na tog US veterans. Mutawag gani kag US veterans meaning you were registered soldier during World War II and because you were a registered soldier, you were given privileges like the other combatants of the World War II. Meaning kaning mga veterans or mga US veterans, ang ubang mga US veterans by the way, they were allowed to reside and transfer in the United States, no? So kanang ug member ka sa USAFE, probably inyong mga great grandparents, mga members sa USAFE, you try to check it's actually part of your family's history, no? January 9, ongoing ang battle ani. There were actually a lot of naval airstrikes in Bataan. Bataan being the last frontier. Uh there were ongoing bombings. However, the reality was this. Remember the idea of Europe First policy? The Americans were no longer sending backups. Okay, walay nangabot nga backup diri sa Pilipinas, and that's the reason why in April 9 of 1942, the soldiers, the Filipino American, there were also Chinese and even Palestinian soldiers who participated in World War II. They were compelled to surrender because there were no backup coming. So in Malinta Tunnel, Captain Salvador announced, by the way, Captain Salvador Lopez wrote the surrender, and it was announced by Lieutenant Norman Reyes. So they surrendered because, for one, if the hostilities will continue, they will never survive. They will die inside the Malinta Tunnel. So if you could recall, kamo no, one of the things that we Filipinos like is remembering the holidays because walay klase, walay trabaho. All right. But apart from remembering the holidays, we do not really understand what was the intent of the holiday. So that's the reason your April 9 is your araw ng kagitingan. This was a horrendous and grotesque event in Philippine history wherein the infamous Bataan Death March began. The Japanese troops forced Filipinos to walk. There were about 60,000 to 80,000, and I believe the numbers or figures are way higher. Try to imagine 106 kilometers. If you're a runner, if you like running, no, 106 is what you considered ultra marathon. Why? Ang marathon ramang good is kutob ra gyud na siya 42. Beyond 42 gitawag na siya ultra marathon. So try to imagine 106. That's basically from Cebu City going to Daan Bantayan. Imagine na lang ninyo ang baklay on scorching heat of the sun. So May 6 of 1942, this was the complete surrender of the entire island. The commander-in-chief that was in here or was assigned in the Philippines was none other than Captain Jonathan Wainwright. Always remember, MacArthur was no longer in the Philippines during this period. MacArthur was Technically, MacArthur was a retired general when World War II began. However, he was asked again to. Now, one of the things that you must remember, no, MacArthur was actually paid by the Filipinos to, or paid by the Filipino government to plan the war. So technically dili to siya tabang ha ni bayad ta ato og honorarium. Tulo ka general from the US ang atong gibayaran. Mubitaw ng question gihapon nganong i-glorify nato si Douglas MacArthur nga technically gibayaran mo siyang Quezon kay para mo balik sa Pilipinas. Anyhow, Douglas MacArthur was no longer in the Philippines during this time. He was assigned in a different area by the Americans during World War II. Now, so General Wainwright was actually responsible for defending northern Luzon. But however, always remember during World War II, upon the creation of the USAFE, there all Filipino able-bodied, all male Filipino were actually directed to participate or to join in the war. Tungod bitaw sa World War II, tungod bitaw ani diha ta naka-realize na kinakuwang tag mga soldiers, and that's the reason why at one point ROTC was mandated to be part of our curriculum. If you are fan of K-pop and whatnot, you would recall that your favorite K-pop idols would often render military service. That was actually mandated to us at one point. But kanilaging dili ta gustuan ng ROTC and STP lang sa ta. Okay, anyhow, di na lang ta mo comment ana nga punto, but that was the idea, no. I would not also blame the system why they made ROTC optional, because at one point it was also abuse. Ang ROTC o ang CAT gi-abuse po na siya sa mga dagkong tao, and a lot of people actually died because of ROTC. ROTC involved hazing and inhumane treatment. So tantamount to torture na po. Anyhow, So look at the map ha. Tanawa ninyo, Mariveles, Bataan, and then Nilacao going to San Fernando, Pampanga. 'Di ba I made mention Enrile was a survivor of the Bataan Death March. In fairness to Enrile, how with all the infamous things he did in during his he's still alive, you know, uh with all the infamous stuff that he did while he was still in his prime, one of the things that you can never deny about Enrile, he was really a war hero. He was really a war hero. He survived the Bataan Death March because Bataan Death March compelled you to walk and carry your comrades. You were not given water, you were not given any ration, and if you will not be able to walk properly, you will be stabbed by the bayoneta. If you look at bayoneta, it's actually the gun with the knife of the Japanese. You will be stabbed. Now, nganong nakaikya si Enrile, wa pa man ni klarong mga karsada ang dalan sa una. So when he saw a ravine, he directly jumped therein. Nagpaligid-ligid siya until he was able to escape. Now, upon his recovery, wala ni tago si Enrile. He just simply recuperate and recover and join the war again. So that's one of the things that I commend Enrile for, because for one, he walked the talk. He was not only a so-called leader, no, but he really participated in war. So that's one of the things commendable of Juan Ponce Enrile. Makaingon gid ka nga, iso gid kaayo ni inyong lulo. Anyhow, so that's the Bataan Death March. And every April 9, we commemorate that day, no? Because there were hundreds, or not only hundreds, thousands of Filipino perish during Bataan Death March. This was actually considered the torture. And this was also one of the reasons why prisoners of war, or the Code of the Prisoners of War, was created by United Nations to protect the rights of people who actually subjected to this kind of torture. Try to imagine walking 106 kilometers barefoot pang uban, way kaon, way tubig. They actually even compelled to drink dirty water just to survive. So try to imagine the horrors of the Bataan Death March. Now, the Japanese army they envisioned the country as source of agricultural products. Cotton cultivation was attempted by the Japanese. Mind you, even before the Japanese invaded the Philippines, there were already a lot of Japanese in the country. To be exact, there were a lot of Japanese working in Davao. They were actually working for Abaca Plantation back then. So technically, if you would try to go to Davao, there are actually a lot of Japanese descendants, no? So, however, because of lack of funds and also because of the hostile way of the Japanese, they were not able to convince the Filipinos to produce more. Kaya nga naman, grabe man ni sila ka-violent na type of people. They do not really see other race as a human being, but they simply see us as an inferior race. So, if Germany is associated with Nazis, Japanese was associated with what you called Kempitai. They were actually the Japanese police who were very violent and brutal to the Filipinos. Now, it was not Tomoyuki Yamashita that was first assigned in the Philippines, ha? It was General Masaharu Huma. He was the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Forces, and he explained to the Filipinos the reason behind the invasion and the idea of Greater East Asia co-prosperity. Tomoyuki Yamashita was the last general assigned in the Philippines in 1945. So the start of the Second Republic. So the 1943 Republic, or the 1943, was the mark of the so-called Philippine independence. Uh, Presumably, the Japanese granted the Philippine an independence, but technically it was not. They just simply placed a certain leader therein so they can convince the Filipino that they were our friends. But That's one of the things. The only political party allowed during that time is the Kalibapi or the Kapisanan sa Paglilingkod sa Bagong Pilipinas. That was the only political party allowed. It was actually established in December of 1942. A constitution was prepared. Okay, a constitution was prepared. The individual assigned to that was none other than Jose P. Laurel. And soon they actually created the National Assembly, and thereafter si Jose P. Laurel ang giindak as the President of the Philippines. Now, if you could recall, the only thing that you can recall about Jose P. Laurel was always he was the puppet president. But mind you, he was more than a puppet president. No, he was more to that. Jose Pasiano Laurel, he was actually born in Tanawan, Batangas. He studied law at University of the Philippines and second in the 1915 bar exam. By the way, it was not Ferdinand Marcos Sr. who actually became a lawyer to himself, no? The original one, technically second na siya sa mga linyada sa presidente. Jose Pasiano Laurel was also incarcerated or napriso ni siya at one point. Kay medyo bugoy maniin yung lulo sa una. He actually stole a kiss from a lady that he was trying to court, and then ang iyang kaatbang nanguyab or suitor, nagsinumbagay sila. And because of that, he grabbed a knife, he stabbed the individual. Wala man noon namatay. But then again, he was actually placed in jail for quite some time. And instead of getting his own lawyer, he defended himself. And he was acquitted. So, ingon anak, ka-bright si Jose P. Laurel. Anyhow, one of the iconic cases, by the way, before anything else, Jose P. Laurel during 1943 and 1942, he was not even a politician. Kabaw mo og unsay iyang trabaho, he was actually an associate justice of the Supreme Court. Judge sa Supreme Court si Jose P. Laurel, dili politician. He actually penned the case, the iconic case of Kalalang versus Williams. He made mention that social justice is neither communism nor despotism nor atomism nor anarchy, but the humanizations of laws and the equalization of social and economic forces by the state. Siya ang naghatag sa idea sa konsepto sa social justice. Ma'am, unsam ng social justice? It's basically providing laws for the less privileged. Kita, unsa man ang mga social justice laws nato? Free education. Apart from that, what are other social justice laws? Kanang atong pag-ibig, atong PhilHealth, those are actually considered social justice laws, no? Why? It actually humanized the law. Jose P. Laurel had that idea. He had the idea that to provide privilege to the less privileged. So muna siya konsepto sa social justice. Always remember, he was not a politician but rather a justice of the Supreme Court. Pero you might be wondering, nganong siya man ma'am, di man ka siya politician? Nganong si Laurel mangyod? Sa tanang daghang mga tao nga nabilin diri, nganong si Laurel? Because first, some of the politicians who were here in the Philippines during this period, they refused to cooperate. Second, they actually had their other reasons not to participate. And lastly, no one stood up. So the Japanese whether we like it or not, they will create the Japanese or the Second Philippine Republic, okay? They will create the Second Philippine Republic no matter what. So who will step up? Apart from that, the main reason why they chose Jose P. Laurel, Jose P. Laurel wa Nihongo Hanashimasu. Josu Nihongo Hanashimasu. So that would mean he speaks Japanese. So ug ikaw invader, put yourselves in the shoes of the Japanese. If ikaw invader, unsaon man nimo properly to invade, 'Di ba mangita kag tawo na makabaw sa imong language. And Laurel knows how to speak, or he knew how to speak Japanese because for one, he studied in Japan at around 1930s. He took his master's degree in the University of Tokyo. So that would mean maayo ni siya mo hinapon. So ug ikaw invader ngano mag-train pa man kag lain nga naa na may tawo na kamao sa lengguwahe. And that was also the reason why he was chosen by the Japanese. But we'll see along our lecture if he was really a puppet president. Okay. Now, one of the individuals who was actually present during this period was Claro M. Recto, another Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. He was assigned as the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Then, one of the things that you must always remember when you talk about Japanese invasion, you must speak about comfort women. Okay? Now, in any country that the Japanese invaded during World War II, there's the system that what we called Ainfu. Ainfu meaning to comfort or comfort women. So these were actually women abducted by the Japanese, and they were forcibly raped over and over. So this was actually the plight of what we called comfort women. And this is one of the horrific histories or things about Japanese invasion. Now, if we talk about comfort women, the thing about the Philippines, Manggod, after World War II, ang gihatagan og honor were actually the men who fought in the front lines. But wala gihatagan og pagtagad ang mga babay nga giabduct, ang mga babay nga gipang-rape sa mga Hapon tungod aning panahona. And here comes the young individual, or the old individual rather, Maria Rosa Henson. Now, Maria Rosa Henson, uh, at that point in time, Manggod, after World War II, or even after World War II, or before World War II, women who were victims of rape were actually the ones who are blamed. Sala ni mo kay rape ka. So for so long, no one speak about the horrors of the comfort women until this particular old lady, Maria Rosa Henson. Maria Rosa Henson, by the way, became a member of the Hukbalahap later on, no? Unsa gibuhat ni Maria Rosa Henson? During the invasion of the Japanese, namatay ang bana ni Maria Rosa, and he was in the forest gathering firewood. All of a sudden, she was abducted by the Japanese, and she became part of the comfort women. For so long, these women didn't really have a voice. But in 1992, she divulged what happened. And the irony was, it was Maria Rosa Henson was helped out by a Japanese, Yuki Tanaka. They wrote a book about the horrors of comfort women. In her memoir, she and the other women were forced under threat of death into a state of continual sexual slavery. Sometimes 12 soldiers would force me to have sex with them. Try to imagine, she was 65 years old when she was interviewed during this time. And if you would try to look at it, sa kadugayng panahon naka-remember pa siya, it was traumatic to say the least. They were survivors without any voice. And only in 1992. But mind you, the sad reality was the comfort of women filed cases against the Japanese, but they were not able to win a single case. Si Maria Rosa Henson, she was given a compensation. Nahatagan siya, if my memory serves me right, she was given at around 27,000 US dollars. But then again, was it even enough? She was only 15 years old when this happened. Okay, 15 años si Maria Rosa Henson. She was taken by the Japanese, and she became a comfort woman for so long. So that's the thing. We honor the contributions of the soldiers, but we never hear out the cries of the individuals who were enslaved by the Japanese. Ang sad reality, Nangamatay na in taon ang mga comfort women pero wa gini sila nahatagag pagtagad sa government. The only thing that you will see as the remembrance of the comfort women is this particular statue that I paste in our PowerPoint. You can see this in Rojas Boulevard. If you will go to MOA, you will see this near Star City. Maura na pagkapait. Anyhow, so always remember ha, apart from the brutality, do not forget the plight of the women who were actually part of the Ainfu system or the comfort women system. They were actually they were created as an object. So kasag majority gid sa area is basically East Asia or basically Asian continent nga na Japanese invasion naagi comfort women. And that's the reason behind it nga if you know somebody nga na Japanese descendant, like they can trace their ancestry to a Japanese, they can actually freely go to Japan and work therein. Mao bitaw ng daghan kay mga Pinoy nga dili kabaw manghinapon pero naa sila sa Japan. Why? They were able to trace that their descendants were Japanese. So if Japanese descendant ka, pwede ka mo adtog Japan and you can stay therein. The Japanese government will actually provide you with all the necessary things that you need. Tagaan kag balay and whatnot. It's actually one of the realities. Kaya nga naman, up until today, the Japanese are still remorseful on what their ancestors did. So in order for them to at least sana siya remove the burden per se or at least kanang sana sort of ma-forgive nila or matabangan nila ang nahitabo, they actually trace Japanese descendants. So you'll never know. Try to check basig the Japanese descendants di mo. As long as ma-prove ninyo makaila mo sa inyong ancestors, you are actually allowed to go to Japan. Okay? By the way, this is the Claro M. Recto. Jose P. Laurel, if you would like to trace his roots, kasagaran, recent lang di ay, if you can remember Denise Laurel. Denise Laurel is actually the great-granddaughter of Jose P. Laurel. So, si Denise Laurel, apo na siya sa anak ni Laurel. Ang tanaw ninyo si Denise Laurel or mga Laurels in general, ang last nga politiko nga nilansar was none other than Doy Laurel during 1986 during the martial law period, no. Ka-remember mo sa I believe ni trending ni at one point ang statement ni Denise P. Laurel kay kasagaran man gud niya mga ancestors ni Laurel or mga descendants rather ni Laurel, they never join in politics. Kinsa may mga famous descendants niya, Franco Laurel, the theater actor, Rajo Laurel, the designer, Patty Laurel, also a socialite, and then kani si Denise Laurel, artista. Ah, ang unsa to'y statement ni Denise Laurel, no? For her, how are they going to help the country if they don't know even just the basis of the groundwork? The love to help the people will always be there, but if you really truly love your country, do something good for it. Educate yourself first. Mao niyang statement nganong di kuno siya mo appeal og politics. Kay para niya di pa siya kabalo. So again, that's one of the commendable things about the descendants of Laurel. They are not present in the political scene. Okay? Now, kinsa may famous descendant ni Claro M. Recto? You're none other than Ralph Recto. Okay? The proponent of all the taxes. Anyhow, so kamo na lay basa sa kinabuhi ng Ralph Recto, no? Anyhow, Claro M. Recto was dubbed as the great academician. He was a prominent and also a prominent writer. Daghan gyud kay ni siyang nabuhat nga mga balaod pud, no? He was also an envoy. Now, Arita sa pinaspasay na, no? Liberation of the Philippines. Despite the independence granted by the Japanese to the Filipinos technically, the resistance still continues because for one, the Japanese were very brutal to the Filipinos. So by August of 1944, the first American air raids in the Philippines took place in Davao. That would mean diri na naghinay-hinay. Nganong 1944 pa? Because at this point in time, nahinay-hinay na pug ka-liberate ang Europe. Okay? Uh, naghinay-hinay na pug ka-liberate ang Europe aning time. So that would mean, if you could remember the Euro first policy, di ba? Dapat mutabang or dapat i-priority sa nilang Europe. At this point in time, medyo nihinay-hinay namang gyud ang power or grip ni Hitler and other members of the Axis powers in Europe. So by this time, nagpadala na sila additional backup diri sa Pilipinas. So August of 1944, first American air raids in the Philippines took place. September 21, air raids in Manila prompting President Laurel to proclaim the existence of war against the US. So kaning September 21, tan-aw na to anong gi-highlight ko ni red rather. By the time na nag-start og attack balik ang mga Americans diri sa Pilipinas, Jose P. Laurel was directed by the Japanese to declare war against the United States of America. So that would mean he was instructed by the Japanese to declare war. So when you say declare war, you are directly telling one country to the other that we are enemies. 'Di ba? Declaration of war ba or proclamation of war. When I proclaim war against the United States, meaning si Laurel kontra niya si US. Pero tanawa ang iyang gibuhat. This is where you see the brilliance of Jose P. Laurel. He declared instead the existence of war against the US. Unsa man day difference, ma'am? Proclamation and declaring directly. If you would try to look at existence of war or the word existence, you simply recognize that there is a war against the US, but it doesn't necessarily follow the Philippines is part of the war. Di ba, og kontra ka, I declare war against your country. But what did he do? He played it. Kaya nga naman, di man ka ba mubasa og English ang Japanese. He wrote it entirely in English, stating the term, he simply proclaimed the existence of war against the United States, but he did not categorically state that the Philippines is at war with the US. Kita mo sa brilliance niya? Iyan ang gi-recognize. Yes, na ay gubat, pero dili meaning nga appeal me. Kakita mo sa kuan. Anyhow, that's one of the things that I do not like about online class. No, kay wag mo respond nimo or kanang recorded lecture ba. But anyhow, that's one of the things about Jose P. Laurel. Try to imagine you did this type of proclamation despite the fact nga pwede ka pati yun sa mga Hapon the moment they found out about this. And they did. And that's also the reason why Laurel was actually brought to Tokyo for quite some time, no? Anyhow, October 20, 1944, si I Shall Return ni return na gyud. So MacArthur for fulfilled his promise and returned basically the famous Tacloban Leyte landing, no? Always remember MacArthur was paid by Quezon. He was actually paid off by Quezon. Gabayad taan ni nilag honorarium in order for them to help out the Philippines. So that it was not freely done. Gi-question bitaw na for so long why we needed to pay off the Americans if it was really a voluntary assistance. Anyhow, December 21 of 1944, President Laurel was evacuated to Baguio. And then 1945, the American forces landed in Lingayen, Pangasinan. And in February of 1945, the Long Battle of Manila. So March 3, 1945, Manila was liberated by the American forces. Now, kinsam ning hukbalahap. Ang hukbo laban sa Hapon was actually this were actually the Huk movement began even before the start of the World War II. This was actually a movement for the peasants and the Filipinos who did not really own any land. Always remember, and until this point, land is actually one of the issues of the Philippines. We will highlight the flight of the Hukbalahaps during our lecture of agrarian reform, no? But Hukbalahap assisted. They fought hand in hand with the Filipinos and also the USAFI members to fight for the liberation. So nahimo ni silang organization to fought against the invaders. The famous leader of Hukbalahap was none other than Luis Taruk. Luis Taruk surrendered in 1958. He surrendered to Ninoy Aquino, one of the loyal the loyal leaders under the reign of Ramon Magsaysay, the people's president, no? So Luis Taruk, he was actually the prominent leader of Hukbalahap. He surrendered in the 1950s. Now, Kempitay is actually the repressive military tactics. If you have Nazi in Germany, we had Kempitay in the Philippines. They were very brutal, no? So March 1945, Laurel was flown into Taiwan and then he was evacuated in Japan. Douglas MacArthur declared the independence of the Philippines on July 4 of 1945. Nganong July 4? That is again there 4th of July, the independence of the United States. So, ug naagi na sila i-declare na independence, it's always July 4. August 15, Japan surrendered unconditionally to the Allied powers. So, ni surrender na ang mga Hapon ani no? Ngano ni surrender ang mga Hapon ani? Because August 15, if you could remember, uh, August 6 and 9, that was actually the infamous bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This was the first time that the world has seen the powers of the atomic or the nuclear bomb. If you've seen the film Oppenheimer, you would understand what I mean. Daghan na kay mo tan-awon no. You need to watch Pearl Harbor. You also need to watch the documentary of Hideki Tojo, and apart from that, you also need to watch Oppenheimer. You would understand what I mean because this was the first time that the world saw the power of nuclear bomb. So because of that, the events of August 6 and 9, the Japanese unconditionally surrendered to the Allied powers because for one, what they can do, wala na sila mabuhat. They were completely invaded. Or all right, so that's the reason why the Japanese surrendered. So September 2, this was actually what you call the dual voice broadcast or Gyuko on Hosu. This was the first time si Hirohito ni surrender and he actually declared in a broadcast that the Japanese surrendered. Okay? And he still continued again. Japanese are very proud people, Mango. They do not want to accept their mistake directly. And after this surrender of September 2 of 1945, the Japanese closed down their economy. So if you how will you uh ha- what movie would you like to watch in order for you to relate the effect of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki? You watch Ghibli's The Grave of the Fireflies. Okay, so you would understand unsay impact. At the end of the day, dili man gud ang mga leaders ang maapektuhan sa war. It will always be the ordinary people who will suffer with war. So September 3, 1945, the surrender of Tomoyuki Yamashita. By the way, Tomoyuki Yamashita is actually his grave is actually in the Philippines, no? Diri na gilubong si Tomoyuki Yamashita kay diri man na siya gi-execute. So this is the guy, Tomoyuki Yamashita. But you know what? One of the funny things, or not necessarily funny, but one of the things that you could recall how loyal Japanese are. You research the guy named Hiro Onada. Hiro Onada was actually the last Japanese who surrendered in the Philippines in 1974. He was hiding in the mountains of Luzon. Di siya motuo. Hiro Onada surrendered during the time of martial law. 'Di ba na-end ang war 1945? 'Di ba na-end ang war 1945? Ni surrender si Hiro Onada 29 years thereafter. Kay nga naman, wa siya ni tuo nga humana ang gubat. He was hiding in the mountains of Luzon, and only during the time of Ferdinand Marcos, and if wala siya og another Hapon nga translator, he would not believe nga humana ang war. He wasted 29 years of his life because of his loyalty to the Japanese Empire. By the way, this grave site of Tomoyuki Yamashita, you can see this in Batangas. It's actually the grave site of Tomoyuki Yamashita. He's buried in the Philippines, no? Okay. Now, the independence and the establishment of the new republic. So, after World War II, that's the time that the government convened, and then we created the so-called Third Republic. The First Republic, again, is the Commonwealth. The Second Republic is the Japanese Republic or the Kalibapi. And the Third Republic or the so-called New Republic is the republic wherein the president was none other than Manuel Rojas. Okay? Manuel Rojas defeated Sergio Osmeña. So technically, si Sergio Osmeña na president na siya for roughly 2 years, 1944 until 1946, which was actually the general election. So kadiyot ra kayo na presidente si Sergio Osmeña kay napildi siya sa bag-o nga sa ni Manuel Rojas. By the way, Manuel Rojas did not serve during the war. Niingon siya na nagsakit daw ni siya. And Laurel saved Rojas several times, no, para dili lang ni siya ma-execute sa mga Hapon. Anyhow, that's Manuel Rojas. Very familiar, no? Ang mga politicians na to basta nay responsibility magkuan din masakit din aon sa ba. Anyhow, side comment ra to ha, notice lang nako. Whether or not it was true, we will never know. So, the Treaty of Manila, di ba if you could remember in the Commonwealth era, it was actually made mention therein, 10 years thereafter, we will be given liberation. So, ang ika-10th year na to is technically the year of 1946. Di ba 1935, and then by 1946, technically 11 years na ta, kay dapat ang ika-10th year na to is 1945. But since 1945 was still an ongoing war, we created a treaty or contract with the United States of America, creating the Treaty of Manila. In the Treaty of Manila, this was actually the time we created an agreement that finally the coveted independence or so-called Philippine independence will be given to us. Now, before we are given a Philippine independence, we were again given another contract. Ang first contract nila is tagaan-tag liberation or complete freedom. First one, ang salient feature ani nga balaod, recognize the Philippines as finally an independent nation. We relinquish US sovereignty over the entire island. So that would mean ang sovereignty gibalik na sa atoa. Again, unsa toy sovereignty? The supreme and uncontrollable power. So that would mean ang power gibalik na sa atoa. Second, pero tanawan ninyo napagi kondisyon. Before, 'di ba, ang duha nindot. Ang ikatulo tanawa ang kondisyon. Diplomatically represents the Philippines in other countries while a foreign service office was still pending. So that is something possible, but we were capable of representing ourselves. And then they would like to maintain the military bases in the Philippines. The military basis is understandable because after World War II, the Filipinos were also fighting with each other, no? Labi na itong mga Japanese collaborators. So I would agree with this. Now, this is just some of the few pictures of how ruined the entire Manila was during that period, no? Kay tanang mga kagubot dito mampod sa Manila. Now, the Bill Trade Act or the Philippine Trade Act of 1942. The bill was filed by U.S. Congressman from Missouri, Charles Jasper Bill. And he actually did this in 1945, no, September of 1945. These were the provisions before the Philippines will be given sovereignty. And these were actually trading provisions. Diri nagsugod nga nung mas mahal ang dollars kaysa peso. Ang 2:1 exchange rate between Philippine peso and US dollar. Mas labaw ang dollar kaysa peso. The unlimited free trade, meaning 8 years nga pwede ka magpasud og produkto walay bayad-bayad to the Philippines. And the gradual placing of tariff. When you talk about tariff, taxes na siya nga magpasud kag butang diri sa Pilipinas, you need to pay taxes. Sila'y nagbuot kung kanusa pwede mo butang og tax. And the granting of parity rights. Kaning parity rights, ug unsay katungod sa Filipino sa Pilipinas, musay katungod sa mga Amerikano. Ibutang nato. The Americans during this parity rights agreement in 1946, they were allowed to own properties in the Philippines. But if you are a Filipino and you would like to go to America, you are not given the same right. So alkansi kaayo ta aning Bill Trade Act. Dili imong tan-awon, dili gini siya maayo nga balaod. Why? Tiwasan ka instead nga maka-recover sa kasawar, matiwasan ang imong sitwasyon. And American entities can tap resources which was reserved for the Filipinos as stated in 1935. In other words, the Congress was compelled to amend the Constitution. Kay nga naman, sa 1935 Constitution, naka-state therein that the Americans were not allowed to touch Philippine resources. But kaning Bill Trade Act, pwede na sila manghilabot. If kamoy mga Filipino during that time, dili jud mo musugot ani, di ba? Kay if you try to look at it, kaalkansi na mo. However, giplanuhan man gud nila tanandaan. This was created in September of 1945. Bag-o pa gani ni surrender si Tomoyuki Yamashita. Og dili mo pirma ang Pilipinas ana, unsa may di na to makuha? Ang Bill Trade Act o ang Philippine Rehabilitation Act. Unsa maning Philippine Rehabilitation Act, maukunuhay ni ang tabang sa US dito sa Pilipinas. But if you try to look at it, this particular amount, they were able to get this by exploiting our resources for so long. Okay? They were actually the few first individuals who exploited our mining fields good. So, di ba, if you will try to look at the Bill Trade Act or the Philippine Trade Act, alkansi ang Pilipinas. But because our backs are against the wall, gikan ka gubat, wa kay kwarta, how can you rebuild your own country? So, we were compelled to sign the Bill Trade Act in lieu of the Philippine Rehabilitation Act. Maoning mga provisions or kwartang gihatag sa Pilipinas in order for us to sign the so-called act. So by July 3 of 1946, the Bill Trade Act was ratified and it became Commonwealth Act 733. So that's basically the reason why we were exploited for so long. So ang military bases, there were at least 24 military bases all over the country during 1947. And hinay-hinay na ngawa ang military bases. The last military base, as I made mention, it was the Clark Air Base in Pampanga na naundang ra gyud na siya if wala ni pagkabuto sa Mount Pinatubo during the 1990s. So naanatay kwarta, naka-rehabilitate na ta. So unsa pag lain na tong away? Ang so-called Filipino collaborators. So kaning puntuha, ang mga Filipino nga nitabang sa hapon gipangdakop. Okay? Including Jose P. Laurel and your famous Emilio Aguinaldo. Emilio Aguinaldo was actually a Japanese collaborator. He collaborated with them in 1941 during the onset of the invasion. So, gi-create ni ang Proclamation number 51. Now, amang gutay People's Court, it was actually, the People's Court were tasked to investigate alleged war crimes by Filipinos. Leading Filipinos figures were arrested and charged with treasonable collaboration. Remember the idea of treason, betraying one's country. Okay? Now, Proclamation number 51 was created by Manuel Rojas to create a blanket amnesty, providing the so-called Japanese collaborator amnesty. So when you talk about amnesty, that would mean your crime is political. So treason is political man no. Ang pagtraidor sa usa ka nasod political man na siya. So when you talk about amnesty, meaning tagaan as if wala na nahitabo ang imong offense. Meaning you can start with a clean slate. So gitagaag amnesty ang mga called gitawag nga Japanese collaborators. Nganong gibuhat man na ni Rojas? Because during that period, although we were already liberated, ang mga Filipinos nag-unay og away gihapon. Nagbawsanay ba? So para maundang ang Bawsanay, Rojas decided to create Proclamation number 51 to end the hostilities. Now, Manuel Rojas, by the way, is basically the prodigy of Quezon and also Sergio Osmeña. He's also a lawyer, a bar top notcher. No, he basically topped the bar exam in 1913. Manuel Rojas is the great grandfather of Mar Rojas. Now, one of the most iconic things about the Proclamation number 51, I would always remember the speech of Jose P. Laurel during that time he was tried in the People's Court and he was charged as a collaborator or traitor. During his speech, it was simple. I am neither pro-Japanese nor pro-American. I am pro-Filipino. There is no law that condemn me for having placed the welfare of my people over and above that of America. I am not expecting a decoration. I do not claim to be a hero. Although human justice may err, what matter is that I am innocent before my conscience and my God. I shall face my Creator in full confidence that I had dedicated my powers, talents, and energies to the service of my country at a time when she needed the most. So for me, no, one of the underrated individuals in history would always be Jose P. Laurel. He was dubbed as the puppet president, but if you would try to analyze, he stood up for the Filipinos when everyone else rejected the idea. So try to imagine if his Jose P. Laurel did not step up as the president, more hostilities and casualties, more Filipinos will be casualty of the war. Kay wala na may makapugong-pugong. Although Laurel did not able to stop the atrocities and the violence of the Japanese, but at least at one way or the other, he was able to mitigate the effect. Meaning, iyang na lessen ang effect. Apart from that, he saved a lot of Filipinos and Filipino politicians because he became and stood up as the president. So I would agree with Jose P. Laurel. And we cannot afford to imprison or incarcerate the brilliance of Jose P. Laurel. Remember Jose P. Laurel and Claro M. Recto, because during that time you will take up Rizal. They are actually the proponents of the mandatory Rizal law, okay, or the Rizal studies in college. Try to look at the Rizal subject, by the way, in a different light. Understand it in the perspective of Jose P. Laurel. And you would understand what I mean. That it is actually important to rekindle what's the purpose and the meaning of being a Filipino. It is timely at this point in time, no, considering that we are actually in a limbo, to say the least, because we will never know. The Filipinos do not really understand the idea of loyalty to one's country. And if you will ask me who's individual, or who are those individuals that you would say that are really loyal to their country, I will always raise the argument that it's always Jose P. Laurel. So kamo na, it's up to you to judge whether or not he was right in doing so, or whether or not he was really a puppet president. But for me, in my perspective and based on my research, you could never call him a puppet president because he did a lot of things to actually help out his fellow Filipinos. All right. So basically, that ends our chapter for the Japanese occupation. No, technically, next meeting will be our exam. Hopefully, no, hopefully we will just be positive that there would be no other calamities that would struck us, so we can pursue our exam. And after our exam, we will talk about agrarian reform and taxation. So that basically concludes our lecture this morning. I will see you soon during our exam. Please keep posted. If I'm not gonna be able to post it within our GC, make sure to look at the official Facebook page, no? As I made mention, I will not hold an online class or a synchronous online class today for the reason that we were struck with an earthquake last night. So some of us might not be in a good position to listen to online classes, no? So let's not add anxiety to what's happening within us na. So please, if you prefer listening to the video lecture, that would be fine. But if you prefer reading the materials, that would also be fine. Whichever is comfortable with you. And please take time to review for the upcoming midterms. Thank you and keep safe, everyone.